The Northern Lights are one of those bucket list sights that most photographers would dearly love to see, and in this video I'm going to show you how to photograph them. Actually, photographing the Northern Lights is the easy part. It's finding them that proves more tricky. On our 5-day trip to the Lofoten Islands in northern Norway, we saw the Aurora Borealis twice, but by all accounts this is considered quite lucky. So with all this uncertainty, planning plays a big part. The conditions need to be right in two very particular ways. Firstly, there needs to be enough geomagnetic activity to spark the aurora. This can be predicted to an extent by checking the KP index on a site like spaceweatherlive.com. Working in 3-hour intervals, the KP index defines aurora activity on a scale of 0 to 9, with anything above 5 being a geomagnetic storm. Unless it's above KP3, then you're unlikely to see anything. Secondly, the skies need to be at least partially cloud-free in order to see it. If there's blanket cloud, rain or snow, then there's little chance of seeing anything. So check the local cloud maps and keep in mind that in the far north, the weather can change very quickly. So at one moment there might be storms and the next clear skies. If conditions are right, then you need to think carefully about your position. You're unlikely to see the aurora directly overhead unless you're very far to the north. It's more likely you'll see it in the northern portion of the sky. So the key thing here is to find a clear view in that direction. So that's how to give yourself the best chance of actually seeing the Northern Lights. But then there's also the challenge of photographing them. Now, earlier I said this was actually quite easy, and in terms of camera settings it really is. The light levels are very low, too low in fact for us to shoot any usable video of the display. And in any low light situation, it's all about controlling your exposure. Using a tripod, we set the camera to manual mode and open up the lens to a wide setting like f4 or f2.8. Then we use a fairly high ISO like 800 and initially set a shutter speed of around 10 seconds. Then we simply vary the shutter speed until we hit upon the right length to capture the display. Judging the length of the aurora is important. If the aurora is moving fast, then you don't really want to go any slower than about 10 seconds, as the result will be a featureless swathe of green without all the delicate swirls and patterns. So this is all about the balance between shutter speed and ISO. If you need to speed up your shutter, then you have to increase your ISO to 1600 or more to compensate. Conversely, if the aurora is moving slowly, then you have the luxury of being able to reduce your ISO and increase your shutter speed. One of the biggest challenges with photographing the aurora is finding an interesting foreground. The display is stunningly beautiful, but like a glorious sunset, it needs context. Framing mountains, trees or buildings in the foreground provides this context. Sometimes the aurora will blossom in swirls and patterns across the sky, and at other times it might show up as more of a thin line along the horizon. When it blooms up in front of you, it's unmistakable, but at times when it's weaker, the aurora can look deceptively similar to clouds. We were constantly mistaking clouds for aurora, perhaps through wishful thinking. If you can't tell with the naked eye, then try taking a snap with your camera using a very high ISO setting. Then you can check your screen for any hint of green in the sky. Keep in mind that if you spot the aurora while driving, you may only have a few minutes to stop and shoot. They come and go quite quickly, and once gone, there's no telling when or if they might return. So there we have it. That's a few things to think about when shooting the aurora. We had a great time aurora chasing, and with these tips, I hope you will too.